Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Fran, and today I would like to talk about how to awaken from the dream of reality and become aware of how our subconscious creates the reality that we live in by deceiving our conscious mind. At the end of the video, I will also give you a practical exercise to carry out so that you can put the theory to the test for yourselves. The exercise appears in one of Neville Goddard's lectures, and it comes from the direct experience of one of his students. This will allow you to test in a practical, systematic way your ability to create external events through the power of imagination. So stay tuned. First of all, though, let's explore the gap between reality, in inverted commas, and perception. Let's take the movies, for example. Motion picture shows us all too clearly that what we see out there is not really out there, but inside our mind. The still frames flash at great speed before our eyes. We perceive them as a continuous stream or flow without interruption. And that is because the frames are run so fast so as to fool our conscious mind. They move faster than our brains can detect, or that the conscious part of our minds can detect, I should say. You see, our brains are meaning-making machines, and while our conscious mind is analytical, it's also very slow. Compared to our subconscious mind, the subconscious can process an enormous amount of information at the same time. Nothing escapes its grasp. However, the subconscious, it's like a bouncer of a posh club. It filters out those who are allowed to come in and those who don't make the cut, so to speak, as there is not enough room inside for everyone to come in at once. Now, how does the bouncer screen its customers? That depends on the club's rules. It may be that people in denim and trainers are not allowed in, but the rules are completely arbitrary and they can be changed anytime. Of course, the bouncer cannot change the rules. That's not his job. His job is to keep out those who don't fit the mold. It may be a dirty job, but A, it doesn't make the rules, and B, is only doing it to protect the safety of the customers inside. Of course, this implies making gross generalizations and leaving out in the cold some really cool people and interesting people who just happen to dress casual, perhaps because they have to wear a suit and tie every day to work. But our bouncer, the subconscious mind, is not paid to be rational, logical, and analytical. He's paid to make a snap decision based on generalizations of previous experiences. This might mean leaving out some great opportunities, but mainly it means keeping us safe inside our fortress. So let's say that we realize that the rules are preventing the club from attracting interesting and fascinating people. Who can change the rules? The management, in the form of the conscious mind. So the main role of the conscious mind is to reprogram the subconscious so as to minimize its decision-making role. Imagine if the management had to get to know intimately each person who wants to come in order to make a decision. The club would never open. So to go back to our motion picture example, the subconscious mind takes in an enormous amount of stimuli and makes a snap decision so as to what it's perceiving and whether the stimulus is to be classified as friend or foe. In order to classify the stimulus quickly, the subconscious mind generalizes on the basis of previous experiences and acquired rules. This explains optical illusions and why different people will interpret the same image differently, or will perceive the same image in a different way. When you look at the image here, do you see faces or a vase? This will depend on your subconscious bias. Most people will probably see faces, as human beings are hardwired for social interaction above pottery. But if you're a vase-making artist, you might see a vase instead. So let's go back to our motion picture example. 3D movies. They allow us to see in 3 dimensions a flat screen by wearing glasses in which one lens has a vertical and the other has a horizontal polarization. To us, the movie is really in 3D. We're inside the movie, yet we're actually outside. But we're tricked by light coming in at different frequencies and different polarizations. And this light comes in through the retina. Then it gets sent to the central nervous system, where it gets interpreted as images. So do you still believe that the world you see, it's somewhere out there, independent of your observation? Do you still think that it exists outside of your individual perception? Now, the most common objection to this is, if everyone sees and perceives the same physical reality, doesn't this prove that the reality is out there, that it exists objectively and independently of who's looking? Well, apart from the perceptual illusions, which we have already seen, what about the different species? Do dogs hear like we do? Do insects see what we see? Do we navigate the world like a bird? No, of course not. So what this means is that the reason that we as humans perceive the same reality is that we are genetically hardwired by a process of adaptation and for the purpose of survival to see the world as we do. Does this make the world any more real? Of course not. The world as we experience it is a sensory illusion created by our hardware and by our software. The fact that most human beings share the same hardware doesn't make the illusion any more real. It just makes it harder to spot. It's merely a commonly shared illusion and reinforced by a socially shared paradigm. Now think about computer programming algorithms. They are mere sequences of ones and zeros, yet we don't see the endless sequence of ones and zeros. We see images, we hear sounds, we perform complex operations and play beautiful games, yet the sounds, images and functions don't exist in any real sense, if not on the computer screen, or, to carry on with the metaphor, on the screen of our consciousness, which translates light patterns and air disturbances going through our sense organs into images and sounds. All information in the world is but a series of ones and zeros. Yet we perceive a wonderfully rich and complex environment. Nothing is real except perception. Reality is inside our head, not out there. Of course, our language doesn't help us understand this simple concept. We say, we're looking out of the window. You're looking into your telescope. I'm looking through my reading glasses, etc. In actual fact, as we've seen, light comes into our retina at different frequencies. Our optic nerve passes this information to our central nervous system, which is where information is translated into images, colors, and so on and so forth. The reality that we experience as existing outside and independently of ourselves is actually created by our mind. The two things are hopelessly intertwined, to the point that no theory of everything in physics can be found which excludes the observant from the equation. This is also why in quantum physics, observation is found to change that which is observed by collapsing a hazy cloud of virtual probabilities into a localized particle. Entanglement of quantum particles, which shows that subatomic particles communicate instantaneously across incredible distances, proves that space and time too are just cognitive constructs of the mind, inexistent out there independently of observation. So the question is, what happens when we choose to entertain a new version of reality in our mind? While the conscious mind may laugh out loud at this question, the subconscious mind won't be able to tell the difference between what is real and what is imagined. So the more detailed the image in your mind, the more senses it will involve, the more real it will seem. Also, familiarity tricks the subconscious mind into accepting information, as that which is familiar is perceived as safe. So the more you repeat a concept or image, the more it will become ingrained and automatic. You see, the subconscious mind is designed for survival, and therefore is designed to spot repeating patterns. Familiar ones, as we've seen, are perceived as harmless, as we have survived them before, so they will be allowed in. Those which Our unfamiliar, on the other hand, will be regarded as potentially dangerous and thus blocked. This is why we usually feel safer or more at ease within our comfort zone. We tend to unconsciously favor the familiar, even when it's painful or counterproductive, because we know that it probably won't kill us, even if it's unpleasant or even if it leads to stagnation. Once a new stimulus has become familiar, it will be readily accepted by the subconscious as real. Then it will be projected out there onto the illusory 3D movie of our external reality. In other words, we get to know our hardware, which has been programmed by centuries of evolution into our DNA. Then we update the software passed down from our caregivers and authority figures in general. Now, why do we want to reprogram our subconscious mind? Because the subconscious is automatically programmed merely for survival, and it can keep us firmly stuck within our comfort/stagnation zone. We cannot grow, expand, learn, and change the hardware for our future generations unless we venture out into the unfamiliar, into unexplored territory, unless we push the boundaries of our comfort zone and take a risk, unless we expand the horizon of what is safe and possible, unless we take a leap of faith into the unknown. After all, the subconscious mind controls at least 95% of our cognitive processes. Our conscious mind has little chance to induce change through willpower alone, with 5%. Although we may feel compelled to stay within the Truman Show walls of consciousness, living the fiction of our physical reality requires no real act of courage, if not the courage to entertain a different view of the world, a much richer, more exciting and interesting one. Now, let me be clear. I am not suggesting that you jump off a tall building or jump under a bus. The physical reality that you experience in the present moment is the effect of past observations. And to state it in quantum physics terms, its wave function has already been collapsed from the field of infinite possibilities into the 3D world that we experience today. In other words, it's already been observed into existence. What I am suggesting is that you entertain a different version of events for those events which retain a degree of uncertainty. Or to say it in the words of relativity, that which lies in the future light cone of your experience. In quantum physics, past, present, and future don't really exist in any real sense. The future is merely anything which retains a level of uncertainty. As human beings, we experience time in a linear way, in a linear fashion. Our future is basically the part that we haven't yet observed. So by changing our observation in the now, we can collapse a specific version of events in the future. And how are we to observe something which hasn't happened yet? Through our imagination. As a subconscious mind cannot tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined, between past and future, when you imagine something as real by bypassing the conscious mind, the wave function of probabilities is collapsed, and the subconscious will find the shortest, most direct paths to materialize that which you have imagined. In psychology, this process of manifestation is called a self-fulfilling prophecy. In medicine, it's called the placebo effect. Like Henry Ford once said, whether you believe that you can or that you can't, you're right. But enough with the theory. Let's put this to the test by carrying out a physical experiment or exercise. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and relax your mind. Then visualize yourself climbing up a ladder, then climbing back down. Do it a few times in your mind's eye. Then after you've done this, open your eyes and write down in capitals on a piece of paper, I will not climb up a ladder. Put the piece of paper somewhere where you're bound to see it often, inside your wallet perhaps, or on your bathroom mirror, and read it every day. Then for 3 days in a row, lay in an unusual position in bed as you're about to fall asleep, So for instance, if you usually sleep on your left side, just turn over to the right side. If you usually sleep on your belly, turn over to your back. And then fall asleep, visualizing yourself climbing up and down a ladder. Then just forget about it and go about your life as usual. After a week, notice what happens and do feel free to share your experience below. Of course, if you're a fireman or builder, you might want to change or to choose a different stimulus, as you're quite likely to climb up and down a ladder every day. Now I'll spoil the fun by revealing what happened to one of Neville Goddard's students who was dead set on proving that he was a charlatan. He went to one of his lectures and he was instructed to carry out this exercise, so he did. He was extremely skeptical of his methods and theories, and especially of his motives. 2 days after the last visualization, his mother called him and asked him to run some errands for her and to do some shopping. When he went to see his mother, he found that his father was on the roof of the house doing some maintenance work. While he was talking to his mother in the front garden, the father called out to him, "Can you pass me that bucket of paint over there, please?" So he grabbed the bucket of paint and absent-mindedly, he started climbing up the ladder. He was only halfway up when he realized what he'd done. Now, you might think that this is a mere coincidence and you'll be excused, but Goddard had instructed only people who had climbed up the ladder, in spite of having sworn not to do so, to come back to the lecture hall the following week. And when the student went back to the lecture hall the following week, there were hundreds of people there. Now, of course, I wasn't present then, so I can only take the testimony at face value. And that is why I encourage everyone to put the theory to the test for themselves. Now, I have frequently experienced the same type of serendipitous events many times in my life, and I've always put them down to freak coincidences. Yet statistics tells us that 2 events that occur at the same time or together roughly 50% of the time are a mere correlation or chance. But the more they diverge from 50-50 probability, the least likely it is they are due to chance. So, and this happened a lot in my life, definitely more than 50% of the times. Now, the ladder is an easy enough thing to bring about, as our subconscious is unlikely to hold any resistance towards it or to have any unconscious blocks regarding it. Other things, however, like money, for example, will be more tricky, only because we are bound to hold limiting beliefs about our ability to manifest it. Yet it's not impossible once you remove the limiting beliefs. So this is it for today. Put the theory to the test. Be skeptical, be critical, but don't dismiss it offhand before giving it a try. So we've come to the end of this video. And if you found the content interesting and useful, please hit like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell option to get updates on my future videos. In any case, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful awakened day.